Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. It is Summer Monday, preschool peeps.
Hey peeps, happy summer.
Unless of course you're working in a school that hasn't started a summer schedule yet, but it will be
True.
Summer Monday. Hang in there.
Some educators out there that work all summer also.
That's very true. There are summer programs, but there's something different about a summer program.
There is. It's nice. It's a little lighter. The weather's
hopefully.
Good. Yeah.
hopefully we're all seeing a little relief from what we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to have relief from what we've been through in the past year.
Yeah.
We know at this point, though, as we are approaching summer, that people start to think about some things. They start to think about what they want to read over the summer, maybe what they want to watch, what they want to learn, what they might plan for professional development for next year if you are an early childhood professional. We thought that it would be a good idea to talk about where you can find some reputable information. And for families too, if you're thinking, well, I'm going to spend some of this summer doing some research or some reading having to do with what's going on with my child, because we're going to hit the ground running in September. That's going to be the expectation of many people in many places as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic height of the issues with it. So there is this notion that September is going to be a fresh start for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a parent who said to me, I'm thinking that with the schools with a fresh start in September, I also want to do some educating myself and about my children. And so let's move forward. We often, Alison and I, are asked about what we base our information on. And we have put that on our website under listener resources. There's lots of resources there. There's also still a lot of people out there offering information advice that you could stumble upon that might not be considered expert or high quality. So we really wanted to spend this episode giving you some information based on what is asked most frequently or the biggest concern of teachers and parents. Maybe a couple of those concerns, but the biggest one being behavior.
Yeah.
Whenever schools plan professional development and I say to them, what is your biggest need? Behavior is always in the top one or two.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it affects so much, right? It's so much. And it's the one that I feel like people have trouble figuring out the right methods for.
Because we weren't always taught the best methods. And we recognize, I think most people recognize that maybe the way that our behavior was approached wasn't so great. But then if you don't have an example of what you should do, you struggle because you're not quite sure how it should look or what it should be like or what you could use or what you should say. And there are some great resources.
You've never experienced before because every kid is different. So like the things that may have happened with your older child are not happening with your younger child or vice versa. Or, this class is different than last year's class and the dynamics are different. So it might be behavior you haven't seen before. And it can be a struggle, even for the most experienced of educators or parents.
And at the same time, you wouldn't believe how many people there are out there claiming to be people who can teach you what to say or do with children who really are not basing it on the most esteemed pieces of information. So let me share with you some of the places you can go, places that have been peer reviewed and published things and have websites, and feel free to go look. These are really my, top 3 or 4. Mine are anything from the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations. Pyramid Model is a system for positive behavior supports that's implemented in early childhood settings. Sometimes you might hear preschools talk about PBIS systems. That's positive behavior support system that's done school-wide, and they are usually based on the pyramid model. Pyramid model literally based on, if you could picture a pyramid, and there are these levels going from children who need just maybe a little support, right? A little intervention, little support. And then, so that's the first tier of the pyramid. There's a second tier where they need some more support and intervention, and then a third tier with more intensive support and intervention. And there's great information out in the world on their website. Again, it's the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations. Their website is challengingbehaviors.org or challengingbehavior.org. And that's really what they address, is challenging behavior. They've got great materials too, so I encourage you to go there. Another really reputable resource is Conscious Discipline.
Yeah.
Becky Bally, who is Dr. Becky Bally, who is who wrote the book on conscious discipline.
Quite honestly did, yeah.
She taught us so much about the need to be respectful of children, kind when we have to talk to them about their behavior. And goodness knows that past generations were not kind about it.
No. Yeah.
We spoke in our last episode, and just to give you an idea of opposites, right? We talked in our last episode about not labeling children because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for the children. She has a video that I share with college students, and I probably should put on our website now. She has a video on YouTube where she talks about, can you fall in love with the challenging child in your class? And it is a beautiful video.
Yeah.
I, as a parent, know that when your child is behaving in a way that is challenging you, it's like physically painful, because you are so emotionally invested in this child. You love this child so much, and they're just challenging you. Look for the things from Conscious Discipline if that's your situation.
Yeah.
They are very affirmative versus negative.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's very communication based, isn't it? Like,
yes, it is.
Where they are saying they're not doing this challenging behavior to just get to you. They're trying to communicate something to you. So figure out what they're trying to communicate. And which
reminds me of, you can also Google developmental discipline, and that talks about that. When you look up developmental discipline, also the work of conscious discipline, but either one, they will both talk about the fact that children are doing the best they can in that moment.
Yeah.
They're not doing things with the thought in mind that they're going to disrupt everything and everybody.
Right.
They are struggling, and they are in pain, and they need your help. And these websites can help you help them. So can things that are put out into the world by Psychology Today. They have good blogs and a wonderful website where you can look up why your children think the way they do. A lot of what Alison and I talk about are based on these sorts of strength-based methods. When you hire for professional development, I strongly suggest that you ask what research-based methods are being used as the basis for what the professional development session will be. They should be able to rattle off what they're using. And sometimes it's curriculum, by the way. You know, there are times when I will look at what's in a curriculum for early learners, particularly social emotional curriculums or curriculums that include a lot of guidance for social emotional development. And that's a fine resource as well. If it's a reputable curriculum, there's so many layers to this.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just going to put out there, if you're unsure, contact us. We have a contact form on our website. I'd be happy to answer. People who contacted us will tell you that I do answer, and so does Allison.
Yeah.
Another thing you might be interested in, aside from behavior, is what does developmentally appropriate practice look like as my child's early childhood setting fully returns, or as we enter that space, or as I go back to work, what should I refocus on for developmentally appropriate practice? The phrase developmentally appropriate practice, which means working with children based on their individuality, their level of development, their needs and their interests, and individualizing what we do based on children's needs. Also being culturally sensitive and responsive, being responsive to all of the stakeholders, including families, in looping families into what we do, recognizing our place in the larger community. All of this is developmentally appropriate for early childhood settings. That phrase is the phrase of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, otherwise known as NAEYC. NAEYC puts the information out about developmentally appropriate practice, and you may be unaware of this. Over the course of the pandemic, they released the most current position statement about developmentally appropriate practice, and it got by some people, early childhood professionals. It got by people as they were struggling with remote and in-person learners, but it is out there, and they have dedicated a good part of their website to all the different aspects and what they've beefed up and added to their statements about developmentally appropriate practice. Much of their additions have to do with culture, which is certainly relevant for our times. So you should go and take a look at that. You can find really good information from any books that discuss environmental rating scales. They tell us what the environments should be about. There are terrific curriculums out there that provide a lot of researched information. Not only do they have a curriculum, but they tell you what it's based on. They include teaching strategies, creative curriculum, high scope. Look, now I'm drawing a blank. Reggio Emilia. Look up Reggio Emilia as a learning approach. It's amazing. Look at videos of it. There are
I worked at a
videos on
Reggio-based school.
Right?
Great.
If you look up videos on YouTube, Early Childhood Investigations has amazing videos about doing project-based learning with children, which we'll talk about. We've talked in the past, but we're going to talk about more in the future, I think.
Yeah.
So you can head in that direction for developmentally appropriate practices.
Yeah. I also want to say about the NAEYC website, if you are looking for pretty much anything, you want to know how to teach math to children, literacy to children, science to children, NAEYC has information on their website about that. So anything that that website's my go-to first, because usually they will have some articles in there about any topic that you are looking for. So go there first and then branch out from there.
And their website is naeyc.org.
Yeah.
Every state, by the way, has, I think nearly every state, let's say that.
Nearly every
state has a chapter of NAEYC.
Yeah.
That you can look
and they
up
have
your
their own
local
website,
chapter.
and they probably have resources on their website as well.
I know that that's the case where we are. They have their own website with resources.
Yeah.
There's other associations that you can tap into and other organizations, including 0 to 3. 0to3.org has loads of information for children ages 3 and under. 8 children ages 3 and under, and the families of children ages 3 and under have particular needs, different than ages 3 and up. So you can check that out. The CDC has developmental milestones and information like that on their website.
That stuff on that website is top. I used to go to that website all the time when I was doing, especially young kids, and I wanted to know the milestones. They have entire developmental, like you can print out a sheet and use it during parent teacher conferences if you need to. It's amazing what they have on their website.
Yes. And then there are places where you can get books if you enjoy reading books about these things. Again, NAEYC has a bookstore. Other publishers, as I've said in the past, you should check to make sure the books are published by a publisher if you're concerned about validity. you know, I know that we've said it before, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but scholarly works, we get new listeners all the time. So I'm going to refer you, if you've not listened to it, to our prior episode about how you know if you're experts in an expert. But scholarly works are reviewed by people who know what they're talking about. And that's true if you're published or you're published in a journal. University libraries are a good place.
University libraries are a great place because not only can you find the peer review, you can click a button and say, I want only peer-reviewed articles. And you can also click and see how many times has this article been cited by other people, meaning this is an expert wrote this and other people are using this expert advice in their articles. So like that, and the more it's citing, the more you know, oh, well, this has been cited 47 times versus this has been cited none, you know? So that I love university libraries.
Alison's got a thing for university libraries.
I have a thing.
But even if you can't, if you can't get the resources from them, the fact that the university has the resource and you can see information about it and the peer reviews about it means that's something that you could seek outside the university as well. You
could use Google Scholar too. They have scholarly works on there, and you can do the same thing if you're not, because some of the university libraries you have to be a student or a member. I
feel so strongly that we're living in a time with so much really relevant and researched information and the children need us to use that. That's what they need. They don't need us to just not be aware. They need us to be aware. They need us to be aware of what we're looking at and where it comes from. They need us to make sure that the things we do with them reinforce all the good things about them and teach them all the positivity and treat them with the sort of respect we're trying to raise them with. I think you can tell from what we're saying, we've seen a lot of things that maybe not so great. And I do see it as part of the mission of this podcast to make sure that people know where, not only what the information is, but where to find it. So periodically, Alison and I are going to remind you, we have resources on our website and we have a list of cited works, basically. What are the works that you can read, that you can go to, that support the sorts of things that we teach here on how preschool teachers do it. Anything else, Alison? Am I leaving out any other categories? Behavior, developmentally appropriate practice. Oh, there's some good information about how to pick a preschool, but you're gonna want to get that from places like NACI or people who have been published somewhere. Something that proves that the people actually know what you should be looking for.
Well, I want to, if you're hearing something from somebody, you don't always have, just because that person is saying they're an expert, you can go and still research, like, you know what, this person said this about something, and I'm going to go do my own research and see if what that person said is true, or is there research to back up what this person said? You don't have to necessarily believe what they're saying. Do your own research. Like, take what that person said and say, hey, that's interesting. I'm interested in that. And then go do all of these things that we just told you to see, is this reputable, what this person just said? Are there other things about this topic that I should know? You don't have to just take that person's advice and say, okay, that's the only thing. Like, no, you can always dive deeper into any topic.
And remember, just because it's been done for 50 years doesn't mean it needs to continue to be done that way. I read the most interesting thing about one of the reasons that sometimes educators resist change, and it has to do with our perception of what a teacher is from our own childhoods. And I think that's true for parenting too. We wrap ourselves up in this identity, right? I am a parent, I am a teacher, I am a grandparent. But when we use those words, we mean what we experienced, not the potential for what it can be. We wrap ourselves up in an identity that doesn't even exist in our lives anymore. when you're aware of that, I think you start to ask yourself questions like, I don't know, is this something my teacher would have done in 1979? Because if it is, I need to think about whether this is still relevant in 2021.
Right.
And sometimes it is. Just like everybody else, I had some great teachers when I was a student.
Yeah.
Some of them were wonderful models, and what they did still holds true in 2021.
Yeah.
And then there are the others.
And there's the others. Yeah.
And I think that as a parent, there are some things that families have done for generations that are awesome. Continue that. There are some things that parents and families have done for generations that need to go the way of the wind, because they're not uplifting to children. They make children feel either embarrassed or overwhelmed. Shamed.
Yeah.
Those things need to go the way of the wind.
Yeah.
You know, as a parent, when you do something with your kids and you're thinking to yourself, I hated that when I was a kid. I'm not sure why we're still doing it. Some traditions need to be left in the past.
Yep.
For the sake of your child's mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, when we were kids, mental health for children was not even thought of. Okay. So, and look what happened. We're all in therapy. So, right.
Again, the therapists are so offended by us.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I do want to invite you again, if you're looking for a resource, if you're unsure, we do get people emailing us all the time. We do respond.
Please do.
So please go to our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, and look for two things: the listener resource page and the contact us page. Also, you're very welcome to read our bios. Also that. But look for those two pages in particular. And I'd like to just put the notion out there that if you have found this episode or any prior episodes to be of value to you, please refer the podcast to people. You know what drives me nuts, Alison? When people say, you are like the world's best kept secret. Folks, we're not trying to be a secret. This is not the goal.
Share the love.
Share. And we will catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.